I'm a DJ boy, going to Dcentral, making NFT from the bayous, being crypto poor but JPay rich.
That being said, let me transition to our next speaker who's going to speak more broadly about NFTs and beyond NFTs. I thought we just got to NFTs, but he's taking us one step beyond NFTs. He's talking about MetaAssets and, get this, Soulbound tokens. Binding your soul. Wow, that's a commitment, isn't it? Please help me in welcoming to the stage Mr. James Anderson. Woo!
Thank you, thank you. All right, I know this is a bit of a risk after lunch, but I'm going to ask everyone to please close their eyes with me for a second and imagine yourself in a world that's unbound by physical reality. A world in which there are no limits, where you can fly, teleport to unknown planets, explore those planets, and amidst a desert environment, you find works of art arising out of the sand, illuminating the night sky without the need of electricity. So how is this done, right? And you look around and there's people with identities, and you're connecting with them. So this is the metaverse, and you can bring your identity, your reputation, your skills into this place. But how do we do that? How do we take it to that next level where it's a fully immersive reality? Well, we need three things. We need Web3 infrastructure, MetaAssets, and Soulbound tokens. Now, before all that, what got me into this space? Well, I started researching Bitcoin in 2013 because I was really worried about the economy and thinking that these the debt of the governments around the world was getting too insane, and so I started researching it, but I didn't really feel the power of Bitcoin until I attended this conference in New Hampshire called Porkfest. And I got this dirty look when I tried to buy a breakfast burrito because I tried to pay with cash. And they didn't like that. They wanted something called Bitcoin. So I quickly found someone who would give me Bitcoin in exchange for cash, and then I was able to get the breakfast burrito without too much trouble. And that was a revolutionary experience for me because I actually used Bitcoin as a means of payment. And it wasn't just a speculative asset, I could see the real value of it. And this was at a place where they considered it a temporary autonomous zone. The normal laws didn't apply. And at this conference, Eric Voorhees was there, the founder of Shapeshift, and this young kid who was talking about this idea called smart contracts, and he said it's going to change the world. That kid turned out to be Vitalik Buterin, and so I followed his progress and ended up investing in Ether during the crowd sale in 2014, which, due to its massive success, allowed me to have the capital to form a number of blockchain companies and also to invest in a number of crypto projects. And this kind of opportunity is really important, and I think it should be an opportunity that's available for everyone. And at Rio, I founded it in 2019 along with my co-founders, and we have three core pillars to help make this dream of financial opportunities available for all possible. And that's Rio Games, which focus on GameFi and NFTs, as well as metaverse technologies. We have Rio Stocks, which is a digital securities exchange. And we have Rio Tech, which develops layer 1, layer 2 solutions, as well as digital wallets. So we need to make financial opportunities available for all, to level the playing field and give more people a chance to have that kind of wealth that can allow them to pursue their dreams full time. So how do we do this? Well, the first component is Web3. And when the internet was first created, we kind of discounted because Web3 is such a great term and we're all in the industry, right? And we're all really happy, yes, Web3. But Web 1 was also quite revolutionary, right? You had this world of information suddenly at your fingertips that used to be available in libraries spread around the world. And now you can connect to it directly. And so that was Web 1, mostly read-only. You come and you consume content, but you didn't really participate so much unless you were a techie. But in Web 2, then we had these platforms, these social media giants that rose up. So MySpace originally, then Facebook, and we have YouTube and these content creation platforms where now you can produce content and billions of people can actually see your work. But then most of those profits are going to not the creator, but the platform owners, to YouTube, to Facebook. In fact, on Facebook, all your data is basically owned by them. So in Web 3, what we're doing is the revolution is to read, write, and own, so we can actually own the platforms upon which our data is live, right? We can actually be the product and own the product ourselves, rather than being the victim of someone else making a lot of money off of our content. Now, that's not to speak poorly of Web 2, it completely changed the world. And we can't even imagine the ways in which Web 3 is going to change the world. We're just getting started and scratching the surface. Which leads me to the next concept that's necessary for this evolution of the internet, which is meta-assets. So, first of all, what is an asset? Well, an asset is anything that you can own, certainly, so property, physical things, but it's also something like your reputation, your skills. These are considered assets that you have that are valuable to people, right? So things of value. And so meta-assets can be traded on meta markets and also through the metaverse. Now, one of the ways you can take an asset, and so that's an asset. What's a meta-asset? So a meta-asset is like a second order or higher order of assets, or something that's self-referential. So, with a meta-asset, you can actually say a property deed, for example. That's a meta-asset because the property is something like an asset, but the meta-asset is the actual deed that says you own this. And that deed can actually be fractionalized, tokenized, and split into 1,000 pieces, so suddenly everyone can collectively own a property. It's very hard for people to buy property overseas, but you can do so with these fractionalized NFTs, these meta-assets. You can also fractionalize art NFTs like CryptoPunks, Bored Ape Yacht Club, and other collections, because as they get so expensive, it's very hard to sell them, right? Because there's low liquidity, there's not a lot of people that can afford it. But what if we actually made it affordable to the masses by splitting them into thousands of pieces? Suddenly, we democratize assets, and this is done through our digital securities exchange called Rio Stocks, where we have a license to be able to do this. Now, another example of meta-assets is a project we have called the Pictoverse. And this project is a metaverse that allows you to create, explore, and share. And it's specifically designed for 3D animators, for artists. And if you notice, there's so many, thousands of NFT collections. I think a few hundred are launching every single day, at least a few months ago. But most of these projects don't have enough money or the tech resources to build their own metaverse. So they have to jump into other metaverses, right? Or other virtual worlds. So how do you do that? Well, you want a metaverse that can represent your own unique look and feel. You want something that represents the art in the way you, as the artist, envisioned it. And so, with the Pictoverse, it's actually a composable metaverse. And so we have 100 different planets that allows many different art styles to coexist and many different collections. So it's focused on virtual art auctions and virtual art galleries, and not just the galleries that you see in the real world, because, that's something you can do in the real world. How about galleries where the art, as I mentioned before, comes out of the sand, it illuminates the night sky, and you have art floating, you have art that comes in on a lightning bolt. So, with the metaverse, you can do things that aren't possible in physical reality, at least as we know it now. So, the first collection within this Pictoverse is called Going Ape. This is an IP created by a French animator called Nicolas Lessafra with Nico Picto. And so he's been developing animation for over 20 years, and he actually won an award for a film he created around this NFT series. And so this is an example of something that can go into the metaverse. Now this is leading to what we call a phygital evolution, or a phygital revolution as well. So this is where the physical world meets the digital world, and that happens through things like augmented reality, where you can take your digital item and you can put it in the real world, have it climb buildings and swim in the ocean. You have virtual spaces, which again can be very novel and unique and geared toward the art style that you're hosting, as well as collectible toys. So that's one example of meta-assets. Another one is, this is Alex Hoy. He had a lifelong dream to create his own video game. Has anyone in here, anyone a fan of Japanese culture? Anime, comics, games? All right, we got a few nerds like me. I've been following since I was a kid. Alex as well, he learned Japanese. He became fluent when he was a teenager, and he actually studied over there, and then he worked over there for SNK, working on the King of Fighters series, so he was doing stuff with IP and licensing. So he had a background in this, and then he worked at Cardano for a while before coming to Rio. And we helped him turn his dream of creating a video game into reality. He was able to raise $11 million through NFT sales, token sales, and virtual lands. So it's not just a GameFi game, it's also an NFT marketplace, it has an NFT wallet, and this is the first set of alpha characters. You can see they look kind of similar to, fantasy characters for a number of Japanese RPGs, but they're all custom made for this game. And notice especially these two women in the background here, because the nice thing about NFTs and what you can have with this digital revolution is turning the digital into the physical and the physical back into the digital. So why, right now we see these two worlds as completely separate, but they can actually be interwoven in very unique ways. Now the next project we have is called Cosmos Heroes. This one, I'm sure many of you have dreamt, as a kid, you wanted to be a superhero, right? You wanted to have special powers, maybe even looked at yourself in the mirror and tried to, give yourself some sort of psychic attack or something. And you wanted to teleport and to fly, and you could only ever do that in your dreams, right? Well, with Cosmos Heroes, we allow you to create your own superhero. We'll mint it as an NFT. You can give it its backstory. And there's a unique system to take characters in and out of the multiverse. But basically, it allows people to turn their dreams again into reality and own those IPs because, Spider-Man is an amazing IP, but it's over 50 years old, right? What about the next Spider-Man? Who's going to create the next comic hero? Maybe you. And we hope you do. Another project we have is called Racing Punks, and this allows for derivative NFTs to be created. So you can basically take your NFT, let's say it's a Bored Ape, or a Going Ape, or a CryptoPunk, and you can put it on a car, and then you can actually use that as a collectible. You can just hold it. You can rent it out to other players to actually race for you and earn fuel, the in-game currency on your behalf. And you can enhance the car, and so it's actually going to be a free mint, but then the upgrades are something you pay for. So if you want a nicer car or faster speeds, these kind of things, you can get nitro boosts. Now, that leads me to the next part of how we move into the next era of the internet, which is tying in your reputation, your identity, and your skills, the things that make you who you are, arguably the things that comprise your soul, right? So the soul is a wallet, and Soulbound tokens are non-transferable NFTs. And these NFTs can actually be credentials, so they can be attested to by verified parties like a government agency, or it could be your university gives you a degree as a Soulbound token. So in the future, even things like jobs, you can get your employer to issue a token so that you can verify that your LinkedIn is real, you're not just BSing everyone, right? So with this, you can also take your credibility, your background, your successes, and bring that into the metaverse. So this concept was laid out in a paper, white paper recently by Vitalik Buterin and two other amazing authors who created this thing for the decentralized society, finding Web3's soul. So bringing those reputation, the credentials, all the things into the metaverse and using that for verification. Now, this can also lead to things like a decentralized, bottoms-up social credit score where the things that you do can be used to give you rewards, and not in a top-down, fascistic, authoritarian way, but actually in a bottoms-up, collaborative, collective way that you can opt into. And I think this is really powerful, and it's going to be changing how we interact with each other online and in the physical world. Another way we use this is for, we have a platform called heal.art, which is Wellness 3.0 meeting Web 3.0, and with coronavirus and all the pandemic situation, we've had this a lot of people facing depression, mental health issues, anxiety, and it's important to address those. And sometimes, modern therapy and a bunch of pills doesn't cut it, right? So things like breath work, meditation, sound healing, there's all sorts of alternative methods available. And one of the things we want to be able to do is to, be able to see, is someone legit? Do they actually have the skill? Can they heal you? And that can be done by having their reputation, their identity, their scores, their reviews issued as Soulbound tokens on the blockchain, so it's open and transparent to everyone who's actually helped how many people. And you can also gamify healing, because you create this heal to earn marketplace with utility-driven NFTs, and this can really revolutionize the mental health industry. All of this done to be able to accomplish some UN Sustainable Development Goals of industry, innovation, and infrastructure to provide decent work and economic growth for everyone. Now, our mission at Rio is to provide abundant financial opportunities for all. We do that by creating jobs inside the metaverse along with a number of other players, and we welcome you to join us. Join us in moving from speculation into pure, true value creation. What role will you play in this next evolution of the internet? Thank you very much.